Welcome to Split the Difference. We are back. Took a little bit of a break. This is the third time we've had to reschedule this episode for various reasons. A couple times because I had work, one time because Hope had work, another time because Hope lives in Florida and there's a hurricane. So
Yay!
yeah,
I
it's
love living here.
it's hurricane season down there. I'm your host Jesse. Today we have from Mindbrain Movies, Hope.
Yay, hurricanes.
Let's talk about something more upbeat. Let's talk about The Karate Kid, the original film from 1984, directed by John G. Avildsen, who also directed Rocky. There's very similar films here. Versus the 2010 remake, directed by Harold Zwart. We'll get into it. Okay, so the original film. This is a staple of my childhood. I'm sure it
Oh
is for
god,
you too.
yes.
Yes, when you
Yes.
think the 80s, this is one of those movies. Yeah, the
Um,
1980s. This is one of those movies.
I mean, not only that, but I mean, this was definitely a corner personally for my childhood because one, it's the Karate Kid, love it. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it, but I background before I get into rants for both.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so my background is I am a first degree black belt in Hapkido. Hapkido is a Southern Korean martial art. It is similar to like Taekwondo, but it goes into more advanced styles and sorts of things. But I did that for years and years and years. Like I said, I was a first degree black belt in Hapkido, Southern Korean, and so not only did I love that, but Karate Kid, Jackie Chan, like Bruce Lee, just all these were like staples of my childhood. So like this was right up the alley for me. I was like, yeah, this is me. I was the kid who was picked on, and now I'm doing
Hmm.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I took Taekwondo as well when I was a kid. Fell out of it because it's a lot of commitments, and I was spreading myself very thin with a lot of other things at the time. So I doubt I can even kick properly with how inflexible I am at this point. So, but the original film, it's it's basically Rocky. It's basically just Rocky. That's what it is. It follows almost the exact same path of the narrative. It's almost
Yeah.
the same movie, just with a different character and a different
It's more for like
sport.
the younger generation as well.
Yeah,
Because it's about a teenager, like coming of age, whereas Rocky was like a young adult.
yeah, yeah. Remember when movies that had teenagers in them actually had tons of swearing? Remember that?
Yes.
There's a lot of
Dude,
swearing in this original film, which it makes me
so
very happy.
oh,
Oh, is that a hurricane alert?
that was speaking of, keeps
Welcome to
coming.
Florida.
Um, but my thing is, I would say, oh, that was what I was gonna say before that alarm threw me off. So I was just at a convention this past weekend, and Squints and Wendy Peppercorn from The Sandlot were there. And then that reminded me because even The Sandlot had, like, cussing in it. They were like, "Oh, shit,"
Mhm.
like, so it was and those were, like,
Oh yeah.
PG movies, and they would, like, cuss in it, so that it was like, yeah, like, we used to cuss in our kids' films, yeah.
Yeah, there was a weird point in like the mid 2000s where every film that had teenagers in it had no swearing, there was no
Mhm.
sex. It was like they were so sanitized. It was like this is not. They were clearly written by 50-year-old men that didn't understand what teenagers did.
That or
So
they're just trying to, like, promote the Disney agenda of, like,
yeah,
"Everyone's clean and safe and blah, blah, blah."
yeah, a little. Eh. Those movies are not memorable. But this original film is.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Ralph Macchio is fantastic in this film. He's perfectly cast. Yeah, all the cast members are actually fantastic. I think that looking back at this, Elizabeth Shue was my first crush, my first on-screen crush. She was my absolute first crush. Yeah, she and what was her name? Cindy Morgan, who played Yori in Tron. That was my second crush. So
Different crushes, but okay.
Very different, but those 2 movies I had on Betamax as a kid, so
I
I
was
would
gonna
watch
say you hit, like, opposite ends, dude, like
opposite ends, but yeah, those are my 2 childhood crushes. Uh, yeah, man, this original movie, it's nice to go back and revisit it because there's things that haven't aged well, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I wanna play a little game with you. We've played this game before.
Oh god.
Uh, is it racist? Uh, eh, Pat Morita, he's fantastic in this film. He got an Oscar nomination for his performance. Um, when you hear him talk in interviews, he doesn't sound like Mr. Miyagi.
No, he's totally American.
He's totally an American actor. Is it racist that he has this accent? Because it does feel a little stereotypical sometimes. Is it racist or is it just a product of the 80s?
I would say it's a product of the '80s because you also have to think he was playing a character who was in the war, faced internment camp issues when during the war, and that's how he lost his wife and child, basically. Like,
Hmm.
I'm sure he was trying to hold on to anything he could. Because
Hmm.
I know, like, the perfect example, I would say, like, it comes from a comedy special, but like Joe Coy, he did like this one thing about his mom, and he's like, "My mom's been here for 30 years and her accent got thicker." Like, so it's just like partially like holding on to what you know.
Yeah,
And also like they need to make it a little bit stereotypical to play up to the character he's supposed to be.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. It just does feel like sometimes it is a little stereotype.
it is, but it's also like, again, we're talking about 40 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
this is
literally 40 years. It's 2024 now. This came out in 1984, like 40 years ago. Yeah.
yeah, 40 and some months.
40 and
So,
some months. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Have you
yeah,
seen the video that it's like a joke video on YouTube where it tries to claim that Daniel's the real bully? Have you seen that video?
basically it's just following Cobra Kai.
Yeah, it's just following like the Cobra Kai kids. They're like, Daniel like dumps water on Johnny while he's in the bathroom. It's like, well,
Mm,
Johnny's an asshole in the movie. It's like it's like he kind of deserves it. So yeah, we'll get into Cobra Kai later on.
yeah,
I have some things to vent about that show. Um, But it's nice to see that, you can take the exact plot line of Rocky and transplant it down to a younger audience because Rocky, for the most
mhm,
part, is an adult-oriented film.
yeah.
It's not there's no, like, sex or anything like that. It's nothing scandalous in the film. It's just
But, like,
it's
the
for a more
themes are
mature yeah,
right, exactly,
it's
just because of
bigger.
the
Yeah,
themes.
yeah. But it's generally the same movie.
But it's still good, like,
Oh,
they're
it's still
both
fantastic.
they're still classics, and it's shows it's a good story because of it, that you
Yeah.
can
Yeah, and it's got the sense of humor that I love too, that kind of, like, uh, deeply sarcastic sense of humor. My favorite scene in the movie is when he breaks the bottles on the hood of the truck. He's like,
it's like,
"How'd you do
"I've
that?
never."
How'd you do that?" "Don't know. First time."
Yeah, first time, yeah.
Yeah,
Or, like, the whole, when he's trying to catch the fly, he's like, "Look, Miss Berry," he's like, and he gets all pissed off, he's like, "Beginner luck," and just,
yeah,
like, he's like, "I've
yeah,
been doing this for 40 years, I still can't catch this fucking fly."
yeah. It is unfortunate watching it now. I watched it in 4K. I think you did too. Did you see the string that's holding the dead fly? Did you see it? Things
I
were a
just
little different back in the 80s.
I just try to live up to the nostalgia.
Mhm. I will say that is one of the funny moments I liked in the remake. When you think that Jackie Chan's gonna do the same thing and catch it with chopsticks, and then he just brings up a fly swatter and hits it against the wall. I was like, okay, that's cute. That's funny. I get it. But if you've never seen the original film, you're not gonna have any context for that.
No.
So the joke only lands for us. So
Mhm.
I was like, oh, it's cute. That's funny. Um, when you go into the remake, I just want to touch on the remake real quick. So, comparing the two leads, I can buy it that Ralph Macchio becomes a martial artist. I can buy it because he apparently had prior practice. He says
He
that in
was
the film
learning at the Y, but
at the
yeah.
YMCA, which is like, it's whatever. It's like going to a place in a mall. Like, who cares?
Right.
It's not really trained professionals. Um, I don't buy it in the remake that Jaden Smith could ever take down lifelong trained martial artists after only a couple of months of training. I don't quite buy it.
Also, you have to I would say too, back in the 80s, like, karate and, like, all that was, like, a big hype because you did have Bruce Lee, you did have all that,
Yeah.
like, so you had the hype going into it.
Jean Claude Van Damme shows up, Steven
Right.
Seagal shows
It
up,
wa it
and
was a product of the 80s, whereas in 2010, it was kind of fading. Not
mhm,
fading, because there are still people who go out and they learn and they do their different things, but I would like to say this is more this is the beginning of the more the UFC era,
yeah.
more so than, like,
The big
martial
thing was
arts.
the big thing that was Krav Maga. That was the big thing. The Israeli Special Forces self
That was a bit
defense.
earlier, but,
It I think it was like 2005. It got popular because Batman
that's what I'm
Begins
saying,
came
but,
out.
like, this movie came out in, like, 2010, and this
Yeah,
is, like, UFC time.
yeah,
Um, so I would be more likely to follow that the kids started, like, UFC training, not anyways, not neither here nor there.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. But yeah, I just don't buy it that Jaden Smith could take anybody down because he's so goddamn tiny. He's
I
so small, you
I wouldn't
know?
say that because my thing is that I started Hapkido when I was, like, 4 years old,
Mhm.
and they put me through the ringer. Like, they didn't just, like, hand me the belt. They're like, "Oh, you're so cute. Here you go, sweetie." Like, I had to earn it, you know?
Oh yeah.
Um, but saying that, if we're going to, like, traditional places over in China, they start young as well. So
Yeah.
their experience would have started when they were 4 as well,
Mhm.
you know? Like, I was a B, like, I am nowhere near what I used to be. Please do not like, I cannot do what I used to do anymore because 'cause I'm out of practice,
Mhm.
but, like, I was a beast back then, and, like, if some kid who only trained for a couple months, like, I was training for months just on one technique type of deal, not just, you know I don't know. I agree with you just because the almighty Jackie Chan, who I love, was training him does not mean, like, he could go up against a special. It's also more believable because in America, even though Cobra Kai was no mercy, strike hard, strike fast, strike for, like,
Mhm.
in China, it's so much more disciplined, like,
Yeah.
way more disciplined. It is literally your life over
Yeah.
there. So, like, I don't believe that he could have just come in willy-nilly, you know?
Yeah. Also, I don't quite buy that he could just enter the tournament without prior uh prior trophies or prior experience, anything. It seems very odd to enter into a tournament at that level. It's a bit of a push. So,
Like I said, especially for over there. In America, it's a bit wishy-washy, but
yeah.
I don't know, but just, because they could, like, play up the tropes, like, how they're like, um, Allie, she was like, "Oh, well, miss, you can't be there." She's like, "I'm the translator." And then, he was like then Mr. Miyagi would speak Japanese. She's like, "Oh, he says you look nice." Like,
Mhm.
they would believe that back then. And then but, it's a different situation in the remake.
Yeah. Yeah. Ma Generally, these follow kind of the same plot threads, generally. Like, there's a love interest that, there's a bully that gets in between the main character and his love interest. There's the overbearing father and mother of the love interest. They enter a tournament. He trains him in ways that he wouldn't expect to learn to, get his muscle memory going. Like, it's generally the same. The remake, however, is an extra, like, 20 minutes.
By overbearing parent, do you mean Will Smith or
Oh, yeah, that's a whole thing. I have notes on that remake. I have notes. Yeah, Will Smith trying to make his kid a thing was that was a dark time in cinema. I'm glad it's over. Oh god. But the original, I'm not moving into the remake yet. The original, I can believe that Cobra Kai is they're truly dangerous. Like these kids have been manipulated by this Vietnam veteran who is treating
Mhm.
them like absolute trash. Like I can totally buy it. And that's what Cobra Kai goes into, that these kids have been manipulated, and they go into it in the second season where all the cast gets back together and they lay out, "Hey, we were treated like crap. Why are you trying to restart this?"
Right, and the so because it was in the episode where, like, their one friend, he's, like, terminal, and they take him
Yeah.
out, and
And he literally had cancer and died not long after that episode was filmed.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, that was their whole thing is, like, "You need to let it go, Johnny," and, like, if they are gonna restart it, like, do it for good, not repeat,
Yeah.
because they do, especially, like, they're so young, they were so impressionable, so manipulative, like, the
Yeah.
big part is at the end when the one kid, like, goes for Danny's leg, and then after he does, he's like
He
he
apologizes.
panics. He
Yeah.
panics because he's like, "I didn't wanna do this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Like, you could see he was, like, truly upset because like, he didn't wanna do that. Like, yeah, he wanted to win, but he didn't wanna be a dick, like, at
Yeah.
least to that level,
Yeah.
because these kids, they're still kids at the end of the day. Like, they don't mean harm. They're just awkward teenagers like the rest of us trying to figure it out, and
Yeah.
they're just being manipulated, and I think that's the part that was really upsetting.
Yeah.
So,
It delves more into childhood bullying in the original film. It's kind of in the remake a little bit. It's not as at the forefront. It's there, but not really. It's like it also what is uh what remind me of the kid's name in the remake? What the hell is his name?
I don't know.
Dre. Dre. Okay. Okay. Uh his mother, what does his mother do? Job transfer at a car factory. Okay. All right. I mean, it just seems like I mean, shipping everything, and that reminds me. Why did the remake make so much money? Made for the Chinese market. That was it. That was basically it. There's a level of manipulation with that remake that the original does not have. The original film feels genuine. It feels like it actually has a point, it has a purpose, it has
Mhm.
moral themes to it. The remake, it feels like it's a cash grab because that extra 20 minutes I mentioned, it's like glory shots of major locations in China.
And
You
the
can
fact
just
that they
feel it.
had an American transfer to China.
And being like, "Oh, this is so amazing." They go into the Forbidden City and as on a tour. It's like it's just this grand display of the Forbidden City. It's like you can just feel like what it is.
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't take advantage of your locations, but it does feel a little sleazy. Ugh.
I don't know. I just hate the fact that I idolize Jackie Chan,
Mhm.
and I hate that he was in this.
He said in multiple interviews that he only does American movies to get money for his Chinese films. That he has said that
Yeah.
like the Rush Hour movies, like he doesn't like the movies. He just does them for the money. They pay
Right.
very well because they make money. That's it. He
Mhm.
just does them for the money. And make your money. Slap your name on some crap. Get the cash you need to go make the things. It's one of those. What's that term? One for them, one for me.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He knows how to play the game. He is a good businessman. But
'Cause
I just.
I treasure his Chinese films so much, like,
Oh yeah, Police
uh,
Squad and all that. And was it?
like, one of mine, I love Drunken Master, I love,
Oh yeah,
Police I love the Police
Police Story.
Story,
Police Story. Police
I
Story.
love police stories, but, like, for some reason, the one that always sticks to my heart so much is Who Am I?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and I think it's also partially because, like, in the opening and end credits themes, like, because Jackie Chan is a trained vocalist as well, like a singer,
Oh yeah. He's a singer.
and
Yeah.
he, and he sings the
Mhm.
opening and it's just like, "What like, oh, I just, like, it gets stuck in my head, I love it.
Yeah. I don't remember what the plot of that movie was, but I remember all the action scenes. The movie has like next to no story. it's just action scenes strung together. It's like I remember him falling down the glass of the building. I'm like, oh, that's wow, he really did that. Oh, that's
I there's
impressive.
he's broken, like, every bone in his body,
Yeah,
like
he has a hole in the back of his head that he has a plug in because he got a really bad concussion and his brain was filling with fluid, so he had to put a drain into his skull. So now he has a hole in the back of his head. So
yeah, like I said, he's the
he's a
true
wild man. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a great video on YouTube from a now defunct channel called Every From a Painting that goes into Jackie Chan's filmography. And he goes into like he blows his budgets because he wants to get that perfect take.
Mhm.
He wants that perfect take. I wish that was the case in the remake though, because it just feels very processed. That's a big thing.
He
It's
wasn't in charge, though. He had nothing to do with it, it
yeah.
was all Will Smith.
He doesn't really even do much. Like the one fight scene he gets, you can feel like this is this is not his fighting style. It's not his editing style. You can just feel it. So
There's
it's
one video where, like, it's the scene where Jackie and Jaden, he's, like, holding him near the water with the 2 bamboo poles,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's to test his
and
balance.
yeah, and, like, there's a behind the scenes clip, and Will Smith is like, "Hey, Jackie, don't drop my kid," blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, he's like what kills me is he did that voice that's, "Haha, I'm joking, but I'm serious" voice,
Oh, great.
and I'm like, "You're talking to Jackie Chan."
Jackie Chan would wipe the floor with him.
I was like, "You're talking to Jackie Chan like that. Like, you basically just said, 'I'm showing you no respect.'" Like, I get, like, "Oh, it's your kid,"
Yeah.
but, like, obviously, you're on a very controlled set. Like, nothing's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and Jackie Chan wouldn't let anything happen to a kid.
Yeah.
Like, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Will Smithness of the remake is all over the place. That's another thing I want to go into is the soundtracks and the score. I love the soundtrack to the original film. I have it. It's fantastic. The score by Bill Conti, also same person that did Rocky, same
Mhm.
score. Um, I love the original. Can you think of anything that's in the remake that stands out?
So, I'd
There's a lot
also
of
like
rap music and a lot of hip
I'd
hop.
like to go on record saying that I've seen this movie once when it came out. I've not seen it since.
You didn't rewatch it for this?
I did not rewatch it. I told you straight up, I refused.
Okay.
I told you, I fucking refused.
hmm
I like drew a line in the sand and I was like, I will rewatch the original Karate Kid 50 times. And
Yeah.
I did. I rewatched it like 12 times for this episode, but I didn't rewatch that one.
And what was it
Um
that stuck in your craw with the remake? I know the
so
answer, but just tell everybody.
um it's called The Karate Kid.
Yep.
You know how earlier I said I was did Hapkido, but
Mhm.
I made a fact that it's Southern Korean
Yeah.
martial art.
Yeah.
In the original Karate Kid, he learns karate,
Yes.
which is a Japanese thing that they took influence from Chinese martial arts, but they brought it to Okinawa and made it their own. It's an Okinawan martial art, karate. Now, if we go even further, there are kung fu temples
Mhm.
in China.
Yep.
Kung fu is a traditional Chinese martial art, yes.
Yes.
Why the fuck is it called Karate Kid if they're learning goddamn kung fu?
I'm gonna play this game again. Is it racist? So is it racist to call the remake the Karate Kid when he's learning kung fu?
It hurt me so
Uh-huh.
much. It hurt me. I don't like it.
Yep.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, okay, okay. When they, because I had that fucking feeling when it came out, but I was like, I'm gonna watch it because it's Jackie Chan. I'm gonna watch it because it's Jackie Chan. Maybe he can save this. I thought, okay, maybe even though when they're in China, it's Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's a master of several martial arts. He knows a lot of things. Maybe they do learn karate. Maybe they'll have like a cameo, or maybe that something. Nope,
Nope.
nope,
No.
nope. And
No.
I've been pissed ever since.
Yeah, I'm currently reading a book by Maureen Ryan called "Burn It Down," which is about power and harassment within the Hollywood system. It basically straight up says, "Yeah, Hollywood executives are fucking racist." It straight up calls it out. The amount of racism that was in the writers' room for Lost is so insane that's why Harold Perrineau left the show. There's a lot of racism that happens in Hollywood. I can guarantee how the board meeting went for this Karate Kid remake. This is how it went. A couple of executives are around a boardroom, and then somebody in the middle just kind of said, Chinese, Japanese, they all speak fucking Korean, right? It's all the same. I guarantee that's how they figured it. It's like, oh, it's all over there in the other side of the world. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Karate, kung fu, it's the same shit, right? They're kicking their feet in the air.
It hurt me so much, Jesse.
Uh,
It hurt me
yeah,
so much.
I would argue the remake is more racist than the original film.
It is. It
It fucking
really
is.
is.
It fucking is. Again, the Jackie Chan did this for the money. One for them, one for me. Yeah.
Doesn't make it any easier. Does not make it any
I
easier.
I know. I know. I know. Yeah. But yeah.
I just I'm even wearing a Dragon Ball Z shirt because I love different martial arts so much. Like even they like break it down. Like even in Dragon Ball, like in the original when they was still very heavily martial art related and not like all the energy blasts and shit.
Yeah.
Um they would do world martial arts tournaments, and even they would be like, "Oh, he's from this part of the world. He does this. Oh, she's from that." Like they broke it down even in a fucking animated cartoon. Like they broke it down and gave.
Because they cared. Because they cared. And that's the big thing. Is like I don't feel like this remake was given the care and attention that the original film was. Like the original film had a point. It's trying to have moral themes to it. I don't feel like those themes are translated very well to the remake.
No.
And what really sucks is that apparently the remake is now a part of the official Karate Kid universe. This is a franchise. This is a big universe. There's three sequels to the original. There's the Cobra Kai TV show. There's a cartoon. There's video games. There's comic books. It's an ongoing franchise, and the remake
So,
everyone thought was just its known thing. Now they're wrapping it back into it. After Cobra Kai wraps up, they're making another sequel to the remake that's going
um,
to include Ralph Macchio.
untitled Karate Kid movie 2025.
Yeah, they were
Uh,
waiting for the writer's strike to end and waiting for Cobra Kai to end.
And it's Jackie Chan, Ralph Macchio. Yep. Oh, Ming Na Wen.
Huh. I mean, I'll watch her in a lot. I don't know if that could really entice me though.
But I don't see and it says no plot yet.
Well, I mean, we'll see if Jaden returns.
So far he is not listed.
Ooh, hey, maybe we got a new character. And that's the one other thing that's missing from Cobra Kai at this point. Everyone kind of forgot that there's a fourth movie called The Next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. Everyone kind of forgot that one exists.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. That one is so bad. It's like a
Oh,
7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
one of the one of the kids from is gonna be in it. The
Oh, it's probably a
remake
new
of it.
character. It's probably a new character
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, Wyatt Olaf.
I don't know who that is.
He played one of the kids in it.
Oh. Uh,
And
Doesn't
then
narrow it down. Like, I don't know. All those kids blend together for me. But anyways,
not the
uh,
female and not the fat kid
well,
and
obviously.
not Finn Wolfhard. So the other
Okay,
one.
so it's one of the other two. It's one of the other two. Okay. But anyways, the original film, I want to also talk about the ending. The one big negative I would absolutely give to the original, and also in the remake as well, because it follows the same plot thread, so the same problem exists there. There is literally no denouement to this film, the original. It just the moment he wins the tournament, that's like dead, stop in its tracks, done. It's like
Mhm.
okay. I mean, yes, there's two sequels. I get it, and the second film picks up literally 10 minutes after the end of the first movie. Literally 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think the film really could have used a little more at the very end. Um,
For some
that's
reason, like, I don't know why, but I always yeah, like, even though I've watched this movie a million times, like, every time I watch it, once I do get to the end, I'm like, "Wait, isn't there more?" Like,
is
I
there another
always
scene? Yeah,
yeah, like, I do always feel like there is, like, something.
yeah,
So I feel you there because, like, even though I've seen it 1,000 times, even though I know, I'm like, "Wait, isn't there?" And then I'm like, "Oh, guess not," like
yeah. And then the second film kind of is like a sort of soft reboot because they write Elizabeth Shue out of the story. It's like, oh yeah, it didn't work out. It's like, well, okay,
summer love.
all right, okay, okay, all right. So I want to vent about Cobra Kai for a second.
Oh gosh, okay.
Okay, so I loved the first two, maybe three seasons of the show. It's a it's reverse engineering the Karate Kid, telling it from Johnny's perspective, and it gives a lot of backstory on him. And that first season, I watched it like 3 times when it was back on just YouTube before I
Oh, it was
moved to
so
Netflix.
good. It was
Oh, it
so good.
production quality is high. It looks amazing. It's well acted. The action's really good. It's solid in that first couple seasons. It's really really good. It does feel a little bit like a soap opera sometimes, but it has like this energy to it.
Mhm.
Then you get to the fourth season. And I think that's around the time they got bumped over to Netflix. And they added in so many characters, and there was the plot lines were so intertwined that it became just a fucking soap opera. And not even a good one. Like the
Mm.
character interactions, they don't feel right. A lot of the acting feels poor. The writing's gone downhill. And even visually, it looks cheap as fucking dirt. I just finished up season 5. I pushed my way through season 5. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do this. I'm gonna push
What
my
was
way
the
through.
which was the season where his master comes back?
Oh, Terry Silver from the third
Yeah.
movie? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's season 3.
Let's see. It says like, I yeah, he comes back and then like yeah, I watched through 4. I think season
Yeah.
4. I think I
Yeah.
like tried to start 5 and then they added basically they like wasn't it like season 5 they basically just rebooted season 1 but with a different character kind of like
Uh season 5 like
it came with like the young kid and then like his and then Williams uh Johnny's like son was like watching over the younger kid now or some shit like
yeah, the short black kid that kind of
yeah.
takes under his wing and they become enemies. Yeah, yeah, that if you try to ask me what happens in season 5, it is just a giant mishmash of crazy shit. And also, by the way, the biggest thing I have a problem with is that the logic goes completely out the window because Terry Silver becomes like a maniacal Doctor Evil villain or something like that. It's like a James Bond villain. It's like he's committing like acts of arson and assault, implications of murder. And I'm like, why does nobody call the fucking police? Like, this is just a martial arts school. This is not that big a deal. And
Right.
it just feels it's too elevated for what the story is supposed to be, which is a grounded personal narrative. It's not about Johnny anymore. He's mostly in the background in season 5.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do I care? Like, why do I give a shit? And Daniel and Johnny, their relationship is always like, oh, we become friends. Now we fight and we split again. We make up, we become friends, we split again. Like it's the same cycle every season.
Mhm.
And now they're doing season 6 and they're splitting it into 3 parts, 3 5-episode arcs. It's like, oh, why?
That's weird.
There's nothing left to do. Like, I don't know what you do at this point. I know first part of season 6 is out. I don't even know if I'm gonna even bother. It just I was so
I
burned by season
loved
5.
the first several like the first like 3 seasons were fantastic. Like
Yeah,
I love the first 3 seasons.
great
And like
stuff.
yeah.
It's just it just looks like crap now. It just when you watch just look at the visuals of an episode of season 5 and then look at the visuals episode in season 1. they look usually it's the opposite. Season 1 is usually the cheaper season, then they get more money and then then it gets better. This is the opposite. Like the budget has just been ripped to shreds because there's so many fucking characters on the payroll now. I don't even know half these characters' names. There's too many people.
I know. Like, I feel like they could have ended it once, like, the resolution with Hawk and all them, like, they because it was like they were all being manipulated again, and I feel like it could have ended once they're like, "Oh, hey, let's all stop being manipulated. We're friends again. Cool." And, like, that could have been it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
The ending of season 5 felt like, oh, this is an ending to the show because Kreese gets murdered in prison, and Terry Silver finally gets arrested for cheating at the tournament. He paid off the referee to, let them win. It's like, okay, then they expose Silver, and that's it. That's the end of the show. Turns out Kreese faked his death and broke out of prison, and now he's back on the streets. Like, what? Now
isn't
we're
this
gonna do
like
the
the
same
third
shit again.
isn't this like the 3rd time he's faked his death too? Like,
Yes. Again, it's just cycles. It's the same shit every time. And that first 3 seasons had a lot of goodwill built up for me. I pushed my way through that 4th and 5th season, and it's just all that goodwill is gone at this point. You got to know when to call it quits, man.
I,
You know?
the only thing I'll say in their defense, because the market is so rough,
Yeah.
I can't blame them for saying yes because it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
I can't blame them because, like, I was at the convention and I'm talking to some of these celebrities, and um, part of the big draw, it was a horror convention, but all the cast of The Boys was there. That
Oh
was
yeah.
the that was the big draw. Like, and then all these other like horror people, their lines were like empty. There were, and it's like, this is who
Yeah.
I came for, was the horror people, but, like, and then I would go and talk to them because I met the cast of Tucker and Dale, it was great.
Mhm.
Um, but I was talking to, like, Katrina Bodwin and, like, Jesse and, Tyler Labine and even Alan Tudyk. Like, Alan Tudyk's okay, he has his
Yeah.
own show, Resident Alien, now, which is awesome, but, like, I'm talking to some of these other actors, and they're like, they're not a part of The Boys, the Amazon
Yeah.
hit show, and they're not, like, A-list celebrities, and they're like, they're like, "Yeah, we're doing this because we're working, but it's not, like,
We need money.
steady."
We need money.
Yeah, and I'm like, "You guys aren't bad actors at all, like, you're
Yeah.
good people." So again, when it comes back to Cobra Kai, I can't blame them because of the writer strike, because of everything. Like, if you're
Yeah.
handed this check, like, yeah, I'll suck it up and do some shit. I'm getting
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard out there for a pimp. That's really what it is. It just and also like who was the kid that was the lead character from season 1? What was it? Was it Cholo Mariduena?
The one who was Blue Beetle.
Yeah, Blue Beetle. I think he was expecting Blue Beetle to blow up and be a big thing, and it didn't do that. It didn't work. So I never watched it because I just don't care.
Well, it was part of the DC before James Gunn took over. So
Yeah, man, they're trying to say
that
no, this is the start of this universe. Like, no, just forget it. So I think that a lot of these actors, a lot of them are kind of like on the resurgence, or they're struggling, or they don't really do too much else. Like, I mean, Ralph Macchio basically kind of receded it away from acting before Cobra Kai started up. So it's a lot of these actors. Like, this is all they do, and that's fine. It does feel like it's at the show is at the mercy of the bean counters at this point.
it is. It is.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we have this many actors in the show. We have to divide up your budget for each episode between all these different characters. Here's what you have left over for your episode. It's just you could it just looks cheap. It's flat lighting. It's very flat looking. And that first season looks great. Like on location shooting, outdoor shoot, night shots. Like
Mhm.
I didn't see very much night shooting at all in season 5. It all looks like a studio. It looks like a
Like I said,
cheap
I
movie
only
studio.
did 1 through 4, so you beat me. I
You
maybe
can y
I think I watched, like, 1 or 2 episodes of season 5, and I just, like
yeah. I would never in any way begrudge you if you decided to tap out before season 5. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's my rant about Cobra Kai. Why does it look so cheap? Why does it suck? Why didn't you end this after season 3? That's my thoughts. Um, Getting back to the remake. So, the other thing in what that they do have as a companion elements is the death of the martial art trainer's family. I felt it was better in the original
mhm.
because it felt like it was out of his control. It feels more
Yeah.
tragic.
Again, because it was during, like, World War II, he was fighting. It was again, it's the same thing. It happened with the Japanese, it happened with the blacks, it happened with all that in history when these people are going on the front lines for America, and then it
Yeah,
turns right back around. They treat him like shit.
yeah,
And it was the same thing. He fought for America. He was an American citizen, and like his wife was at home and basically thrown into the internment camp because
hmm,
of it. And like, so there, that is tragic because you're taking from an actual history, and it's a tragic part of history. It's a
yeah,
awful part of history, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. George Takei wrote a book about the time that he and his family were actually put into internment camps. It's a good book. I recommend it. I can't remember what the title of it was. Was it George Takei book?
Speaking of
They called us enemy. They called us enemy. That's the one.
on a lighter note for George Takei though, uh he has a cameo in Resident Alien.
Oh,
And
nice.
And he does, and the reason anybody would know it off the hand, I mean, he has an iconic voice, but one of the first things he says is, "Oh my."
uh, I expect nothing less. I expect
So
nothing
good.
less.
So
Yeah.
good. Anyways, back to
Yeah, the remake and like the implication that Jackie Chan was fighting with his wife while they were driving their car and it was raining and then they crashed. The mother and son get killed, and then he spends every year rebuilding that same car in his living room and then destroys it. Uh, I don't know if that's how grief works. I
Grief works
don't.
in a lot of ways. Um, it could be like a it's a very odd
It feels like
form.
a stretch though
It is
sometimes.
an odd form of grief. Like I
Yeah,
it would be more plausible if he were to like keep visiting the site that it happened at, or
yeah,
the graves, or or like keep replaying the fight in his head, not necessarily rebuild the car.
yeah.
um
'Cause typically, they don't give you the car back if there's been dead bodies in it. That usually gets impounded by the police.
yeah.
Though I don't know how things work over in China. So
Ah, I mean, it's a little depending upon the province, the police and everything don't really come into play. So if he's like in a mountainous town, it could, you know
you're on your own.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of very poor provinces in um China, unfortunately, where if like you're in the boonies, you're SOL.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, that part is plausible, but at the same time, like if he's it's very complicated.
yeah, yeah. Another thing that feels a little uh, off to me is, as a kid, the ending move to the original film, the crane kick, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that's a great, cool idea. That's great. Um, In practice, that doesn't work. Don't do that. As an adult, I'm like, doesn't really make sense. I get the story arc. I get like he learns to do the thing. But in terms of compare that to the remake, where clearly it's a wire gag. Uh, Again, showing the inferiority of the remake. It's literally a wire gag where they just lift up Jaden Smith and he spins without momentum because his other leg is broken. Uh, Yeah, I'm willing to suspend logic for the original, not so much for the remake.
Different time, different audience, different people backing.
Yeah, well, also like that score brink comes up and you hear the Bill Conti score, and it drives it. Like I can buy it. I believe it. I just don't buy it with the remake. I just don't.
It's inferior. I'm very prejudiced against it, as you well know. Um,
Yeah. So
if they
here's the
had,
big
even
question.
if they had just said it's the Kung Fu Kid, I could have forgiven so many things.
I think the reason they couldn't call it Kung Fu Kid is because there's the TV show Kung Fu. And it would be like, "Oh, is this a continuation? Is this a prequel?" So they probably have to pay rights issues or something like that, and it's like, I don't know. Eh, I don't know why they called the remake The Karate Kid. I don't. Why not just train him in karate? Why not just say, "Oh, we're moving to Okinawa. We're moving to Japan." Why
Mhm.
does it have again, it's just because they wanted the Chinese market. That's it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if they did go to Okinawa, or if like they'd said, "Oh, it's kung fu," or like like they could have even said like the way of kung fu, or like like they so many different. I don't know. I just it's just I could keep going on and on.
Yeah, so that brings up the ultimate question: is the remake worth watching? We agree the original is not perfect, but it's very much worth watching. I would say maybe the sequels. Definitely skip next Karate Kid. Don't bother. Even Hilary Swank has yet to show up in Cobra Kai,
Mhm.
so they've kind of just forgotten that one exists. Every other character has made an appearance. Even Daniel's girlfriend, who is his girlfriend for maybe 20 minutes in the third movie, shows up in the fifth season of Cobra Kai.
Mhm.
So this remake, is it even at all worth watching in any way? Now that it's officially quote unquote part of the universe, is it worth bothering to bother to
Are
is
you
it worth
asking me
going out of
that?
your way? Is it worth going out of
Are
your
you
way for?
are you asking me that? Really?
No, I just want you to get the anger out of your system again.
I was about to say, that's part of it. Are you really fucking asking me this question right
No,
now,
I know the answer. I just
Jesse?
get it out of your system.
No.
There you go. Good. There's the answer. Yeah, original good, remake bad. Don't listen to the Rotten Tomatoes on this film. The Rotten Tomatoes score on this film is currently sitting at 66%, which generally is fresh. No, that's lies, it's bullshit. It's not good. It made money, but that's because Chinese market. That's it. In America, this did fine, grossing 176 million against a $40 million budget, and that's pretty good. But I think it's
But
because the Will Smith, Jaden Smith thing was big at the time. Now we look back and we're like,
also Jackie
"Ooh,
Chan, like
Jackie Chan."
you have 3 big names. Like
Yeah,
you're going for the name, not the movie at that
yeah,
point.
yeah. It's the names that carried this thing. If they called it the Kung Fu Kid, I would be more understanding, but they didn't do that, and so here we are. So yeah, original
Yay.
good, remake bad. Don't bother. Don't waste your time.
First 3
So
season Cobra Kai, great.
yeah, first three seasons Cobra Kai, great. I think honestly at that point, if you're going to continue, you better have some alcohol on hand because it is a slog. It is really bad. They could cut those episodes. They could cut the season episode count down to about 6 episodes because that's how much story they have per season. After that point, it's like, oh, the main villain from the third movie, the other kid that's under Terry Silver shows up for like 2 episodes in the fifth season. It's like, why? Because reference.
Reasons.
It's reasons. Reference. It's cool. Why not? Yeah. So Cobra Kai became a huge disappointment to me. Watch those first 3 seasons and then tap out. I'd say there, and you can just ignore the rest of it. Just read the Wikipedia article. Gives you all you need to know.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. So next film, we're going because it's Halloween. We're going to spooky season. We're doing Poltergeist. We're doing Poltergeist. Yeah, I haven't watched that in a minute.
what about Poultrygeist?
Oh God. Yes, we'll bring up Poltergeist at some point. The trauma movie. Yeah. But first, we're going to take a mid-season break because our schedules are out of control right now. Hope is dealing with hurricane after hurricane down in Florida, and I'm
Yeah.
super busy with a lot of stuff in Maryland at the moment. So we're going to take a couple weeks off, and around Halloween time, we'll have a new episode out for you. We're going to have an episode on Poltergeist. I think Jeremy is going to be joining us for that one because
Yeah.
he wants to talk about that remake a little bit. And I remember seeing a little bit of the remake, and I was like, why is this just not working for me? It's like even Sam Rockwell
I was
couldn't
gonna
quite.
say even Sam Rockwell's in it. Like,
Uh, we'll get into it later. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, we'll get into it in a couple of weeks. We're gonna take a couple of weeks off, and we'll be back with spoopy season with Poltergeist and Poultrygeist, of course. And with that, good night.
good night.